Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Danny. We're looking at a fight this weekend, this Friday night, between Keyshawn Davis and Gustavo Lemos. Yeah, we're in Virginia, the Scoop Arena, Friday the 8th of November. Keyshawn Davis, obviously a lightweight prospect, maybe I think it's still fair to say. Known to a lot of fans, particularly in the States, but also a relatively big name all around the world. Before we get into the video, Danny, just as always, guys watching, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. Plenty of boxing content coming your way over the next few weeks and months. Got you covered with all of your boxing content under one roof. And please do like the video and drop us a comment on your thoughts on what we're about to discuss. Danny, as I mentioned, we're here. Keyshawn Davis is back in action on Friday night for the last fight, probably his last, well, yeah, not probably his last fight of 2024. Looking to get to 12-0. He's 11-0 right now. Just first and foremost, what do you make of this fight? And if you could give me a kind of a brief summary of what you expect to go down against Gustavo Lemos, who last time out obviously fought Richardson Hitchens and was defeated.
I think this is going to be by far Keyshawn's toughest test of his professional career so far. I'll say a disclaimer, I've only watched the highlights of Lemos against Richard Hitchens, but the consensus is that he was very unfortunate not to get the decision that night. And Keyshawn Davis, I think, is blowing a bit hot and cold. Obviously, there's high expectations on him as a professional because of his achievements in the amateurs, Olympic silver medalist. But I think against Nahir Albright, who's a limited fighter, he didn't put in the best performance. You'll look at the stoppage win over Jose Pedraza, but Pedraza was, I think, shot to bits in that fight. He was dead at the weight. He'd been fighting at super lightweight for a good while before that, and I will actually watch that fight as it was happening. He couldn't hold a punch. Like, it was clearly not the best version of Jose Pedraza. Whereas in Lemos, you've got a fighter in his athletic prime. He's rough. He's ready. He's obviously nowhere near as skilled as Keyshawn Davis, of course, but he's got the physical attributes to make it a very uncomfortable night. And before the Richard Hitchin fights, he was essentially coming in off 18 months inactivity. He had a fight a few months before that, but it was like a one-round blowout. So he'll be, you'd imagine, very fresh. Keyshawn, there's been sort of like question marks over his attitude. I mean, the Nahir Albright fight after that, it was turned into a no contest because he tested positive for cannabis before it. So whilst it's obviously not PEDs, it says maybe a bit about how seriously he's taking things if you're feeling that during a fight camp. Saying that, I do expect him to squeak through against Lemos. I think it'll be a close, competitive, maybe controversial decision, but as the home fighter, as the more well-schooled fighter, I do favour him to edge it, but I don't think it'll be a comfortable night's work for him at all.
Yeah, a few really interesting points there. I mean, I think a couple of things. So I agree with what you said against Lemos. With Lemos, I think he'll be definitely the toughest test of Keyshawn Davis' career, if not in name value, as you did mention Pedraza. But I completely concur with everything you said there. That Hitchens fight, whatever way you had it going, it was very close.
Yeah.
Yes, Lemos wasn't given the victory on any of the three judges' scorecards, but there was a couple of 115, 113s in there. 117, 111, definitely too wide. We don't want to get into scorecards. We could talk at length about scorecards in boxing. But yeah, obviously beat for UK fans. He beat Lee Selby back in 2022. And obviously, the artist formerly known as Lee Selby coming to the end of his career there. But yeah, definitely game. A really tough ask for Keyshawn Davis. I do make him the favourite. I agree with you. I do think he'll win. I think it'll be a matter of, rising to the occasion. I know you've said maybe a couple of things there with things he's been doing outside of the ring, which he maybe shouldn't be doing when you're on the rise and wanted to, become world champion and made multiple weight divisions or whatever he said in the past. But I think we'll see him rise to the occasion here and put in a stellar performance. And I actually I know everyone knows who Keyshawn Davis is, and it's like not that he's like turned over and he's 20 or 21 or whatever, but I'm taking my hat off to him for taking this fight. I think it shows you the level that he wants to be at, and very, very soon. You do look and compare Richardson Hitchens' last fight, who's obviously now fighting for a world title. Fair play to him. That's what I'll say to Keyshawn Davis. I think he'll rise to the occasion. I do expect him to win. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, but I don't see him stopping Lemos. But yeah, equally, it wouldn't surprise me if Lemos won as well, mate. But yeah, we're both going for Keyshawn Davis, but definitely let's see Lemos giving him some fits here. If we're right, Danny, and playing devil's advocate, if we're correct and Keyshawn Davis wins, puts in a good performance, what do you want to see him do next? There's obviously, you look at that lightweight scene, and the very, very top, you've got the names, the likes of Shakur, Tank, Williams, Apida, maybe throwing his hat in there. You've still got Lama, depending on what he's doing. What a lot has been said in the past about a potential Andy Cruz fight. Is that one that you want to see in 2025? Is that one that you think we'll see in 2025? Or what are some of the other names on your kind of wish list for Keyshawn Davis next year?
I would like to see it. I mean, there's literally no chance it's going to happen. I mean, if you're Keyshawn Davis and if you're top ranked, why on earth would you want to fight Andy Cruz? I mean, I just had a quick look at the rankings before this, and Keyshawn's like top three, top four, and virtually all the governing bodies, whereas Andy Cruz is nowhere to be seen, frankly. So I don't think that fight will happen. In terms of what I would like to see and what I think is more likely to happen, I mean, as I touched on, he's very well ranked with all the governing bodies. So it's sort of got to be a world title fight next, really. I think the belt they'll perhaps look at is that IBF. Obviously, it's held by Vasily Lomachenko at the minute, but sort of inclination you get is that he might hang up the gloves. If a fight with Gervonta Davis, which I'm sure is worth, well into the multi-millions for Vasily Lomachenko, wasn't enough, and he wasn't sure, like, is a fight with the likes of Keyshawn Davis really going to tempt him into fighting? So I do think Lomachenko will retire, and if that is the case, Keyshawn Davis will be, well, there's Williams Apeda's ranked ahead of him, but he's obviously, the talk is going to fight Shakur Stevenson next year. He's Shakur's mandatory, so that'll move him down. So you'll be looking at potentially Keyshawn Davis versus Raymond Muratalla, who's another top ranked fighter, another one of their sort of leading up and coming stars, which would be a fantastic fight. So I think that's potentially what you'll see. I mean, you could make the argument maybe there'll be a perspective where Top Rank won't want to have one of their rising stars lose, but if it's ordered for a vacant world title, you sort of have to make it regardless. So I think that's what'll happen next year.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes total sense, mate. I think you're right. As much as I'd love to see the Andy Cruz fight as well. I mean, see with previous history there as well from the amateur days and stuff. I maybe will see it at some stage, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Maybe down for way further down the line. But yeah, that fight, Muratalla would be a cracker. I think it'll be, yeah. It very much depends on Loma's situation and what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I for one hope he doesn't retire Lomachenko, because I love watching him and still think he's plenty to give, and he's still one of the best lightweights in the world for me. But yeah, if he is and then he gets that vacant title shot, it wouldn't surprise me. Just before we round off, mate, quickly, two different kind of questions here. One, will Keyshawn Davis win a world title in 2025? Yes or no? And after that, kind of tell me, do you think it would be a massive, like, he would be completely underwhelming and underperforming in his career if he was to never become world champion?
Oh, it would be a massive underachievement if it wasn't to become a world champion. I mean, he's been billed as a multi-weight, multi-belt world champion since his professional debut. I mean, I can't remember if it was first fight or a second fight. You might remember as well. He fought on the undercard of Frampton versus Jamal Herring over in Dubai, I think it was. And I'd never heard of him before that, and he was getting a serious billing. I mean, he'd been training with Terrence Crawford, and he does have sort of similar attributes. So it would be a massive underachievement if he wasn't to win a world title. And I do think he will win one next year, just because of the sort of political implications I laid out earlier. In saying that, would I pick him against a Lomachenko, even not a prime Lomachenko, but the sort of Lomachenko we saw against Kambosos? I don't know if I would. Tank, I wouldn't. Shakur, I wouldn't. So I think if he was getting a shot at one of them, potentially not. But just because I see him fighting Muratalla for a vacant, and that's a fight I would favour him, I do think he'll pick up a world title next year.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself, mate. I think fingers crossed we get these fights in the coming years, and yeah, Keyshawn Davis throws his name into the mix as one of the best lightweights in the world, and yeah, in contention for big fights and maybe even unifications and so on and so forth going forward. But he has to get through Gustavo Lemos first here, of course, on Friday night at the Scoop Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm sure it'll be an entertaining one. Fingers crossed he does get through that fight. Or if not, let's just hope that the fight lives up to expectation and is a good one. Danny, thanks very much for joining me as always, mate. Enjoyed that video, and I'll speak to you again soon.